In 2026, more than one new telehealth brand is entering the market every single day. And if you don't know how to stand out, the smartest players in the space will take your patience. Now, after working with and auditing over 50 telehealth brands, I've seen exactly what separates the brands that grow from those that disappear into the crowd. So in this video, I'll break down 5 proven principles for winning in a saturated telehealth market. Let's start with principle number 1. So way number 1 is to own a niche inside the treatment. And what do I mean by this? Competing on we also sell GLP-1s in today's market is simply a loser's game. The brands that win are owning a slice inside the category itself. Because you can consider, for example, GLP-1 as this pie. You want to own a piece of that pie, but if you're something for everyone, if you're just a generic GLP-1 provider with nothing else, it's going to be super hard to, get your own piece of the pie. And you can think about brands like hers. They sell GLP-1s but only speak to women. And obviously this isn't unheard of, but there's a bigger reason even this type of surface level niching works. And obviously you can niche down much further, but this is just an example here. And why does this type of niching down work? It's because most brands are just trying to speak to everyone, and doing this for every audience is a lot of work, and it's operationally really hard to move fast and be streamlined with this type of system. You need tailored communication for ads, landing pages, quizzes, emails, SMS, etc. And most brands don't do all of that, and even when they try, they miss the message because their team doesn't know each audience deeply enough. So they're just generic, and that doesn't usually work. You need to find your audience, your avatar, speak to their specific pain points, to their specific dream outcomes, and that's how you actually manage to succeed with marketing in general. And then here, if you actually instead just pick your own niche within that niche and then speak to one audience only, you need, a little bit simply put, just one ad set, one questionnaire, one sales page, one email segment. Of course you still need maybe more, but the point of this is you can keep it much more simple. You can keep this much more streamlined when it comes to your marketing, when it comes to this approach that I'm talking about here, because more effort into one thing exponentially beats mediocre effort into too many things. It's the power of focus, and that's what we are looking for here. And this way you can lower your CAC, you can increase your conversion rate, get it higher, and you can even succeed with a smaller team or less resources while doing so. And this way it also leads to higher LTV, or through this you can also get a higher LTV because your team gets better at serving that patient profile that then eventually lets them tailor the service and increase LTV. So you understand these customers better and you're able to serve them better as well. Of course, you can still expand later down the line, but expand once you can afford the talent needed to create tailored, high-converting, ad efficient marketing at scale. Usually the better way is to find your niche first, and once you've found that niche, once you've found your patients and you have gotten them into the door, then maybe you can start expanding into different treatment categories and lines, cross-selling to those people you already have there, and building a bigger brand around these different niches as well. So what I'm going to say to you here, spend some time researching the market and figure out which audience is underserved here, and preferably obviously has money as well to purchase these treatments. Now, way number 2, in 2026, people don't want to buy from brands. They want to buy from people. And here you can see a massive structural shift is underway toward personal brand-led companies. So the creator economy and personal brand-driven companies is the name of the game these days. And at this point, you cannot clone people yet, which means that it gives you a clear way to stand out among the competition in any industry. Building a personal brand, building a brand, it's still the way to go to this date. And this is somewhat underutilized in telehealth in my opinion so far. There are pretty much 2 main ways to leverage this, number 2 being the most powerful. But obviously I'm going to start with number 1, which is partnering. So what does this mean? People want to buy from people they respect, and an endorsement goes a long way. And this can come in form of testimonials, experts, clinicians, influencers, etc. And a couple of examples here. A lot of luxury brands do this really well, and they've been doing this for hundreds of years. There's different influencers that Hugo Boss is using, Louis Vuitton, all of these brands are using to associate their brand with this specific type of persona, specific type of influencer that their potential customers look up to. In telehealth space, Rowe recently did something similar when they partnered up with Serena Williams, and the leverage from this has been huge. They're paying for the status, audience, and trust Serena has built, and with this they have had a huge influx of new customers coming into their platform after they ran the Super Bowl ad and the campaign with Serena Williams. Obviously, not everyone can afford to hire Serena Williams as an influencer, but you can still use the same principle with micro-influencers and experts, and then focus more on volume through those, and then eventually if you get to a higher scale and you think it makes sense, you can try to acquire some of these bigger individual names. Now, the second way, which is arguably even more powerful, is the founder-led marketing. And this one is insanely effective for getting a brand started and creating a different level of brand loyalty. Here's an example from Freya, where we sent out some emails like this for them, highlighting their founder story and building a connection. So you can see here, our story didn't start in a lab. This is the co-founder of Freya, her image, explaining her story, why did they start the brand and how did they start the brand, and what makes Freya different. They're speaking to women specifically here, and the founder is a really prevalent face of the brand and a big part of why the brand is successful as well. So this is a good example of how you can do founder-led marketing. Another example is Poppy. They grew to over $500 million in revenue, leading to the acquisition, with most of the marketing coming from the founder. Something like this could honestly be done better and could be done in general in telehealth, and I don't really see it being done yet. But since you can't just create your own medication, the approach needs to be a little bit more holistic than just creating your own product around your own specific pain point. But how you do this is pretty much by understanding that GLP-1 is just the product itself, but the actual thing that you sell is supposed to be something much more. It's supposed to be the service layer, the empowerment and education you provide to your people, your patients, to make them succeed on the treatment and stay with you for long term. So here's an example. Most GLP-1 telehealth is a prescription pad with checkout page. I wanted the medication plus the things that actually determine whether it works, provider who adjusts the dose to your side effects, a protein and resistance training protocol so you keep your muscle, and sourcing you can verify yourself. This is what brand was built upon. So this is how you could kind of build a similar type of founder-led brand in the telehealth space. Understanding that you're building the whole brand, the whole logistical ecosystem, not just the treatment itself, because that's something that you're not creating on your own. And this way you could utilize this type of approach to market and grow your brand in telehealth industry. Now, way number 3, you need to create a loyal audience, because otherwise you're at risk of losing patients if they see a cheaper competitor. Now, there's a few channels so effective in doing so that nothing else even comes close. And what I'm talking about is your lifecycle marketing, including email, SMS, and app notifications, for example. The question is, how do you use lifecycle marketing to build loyalty? And I'm going to show you over the next few minutes. But first, you can also get us to do this for you by clicking the first link in the description to book your free lifecycle audit. But anyways, these are some of the good examples of ways to utilize your lifecycle marketing channels to build loyalty. So you can give value in your emails, for example. This builds goodwill and increases open rates because you're not always just selling. And this is good, especially in the post-purchase journey. You can include tips, guides, FAQs, patient success stories, appointment reminders, manage their side effects, set expectations properly to make sure that they understand what to expect on the treatment and when. So here's a good example email from Effecti. In doing so, there's even a recipe that is GLP-1 friendly, all this type of stuff. Another way is highlighting patients and the success stories from people like you who have already joined this brand and been successful with something that you're trying to be successful at. And here's how you can show this for your customers with the help of email and lifecycle marketing. Here's like a success story we sent for Freya about Kelsey's story. Really powerful when you can go a little bit deeper and more specific into it instead of just having like a review block in your email with no name or no image. This is the way to make it more powerful. And you can also educate about your brand, teaching people about your brand and its story, which makes them feel overall more connected with you and with your brand. And here you can see a little bit of an example on that, more about like on the pre-purchase journey, explaining what the brand is about, how is it different from different brands, and so on, and obviously offering a starter offer as well. Now, even more importantly and even more higher level, what you can do to build loyalty, build retention is with the help of lifecycle marketing. You can, for example, push people to an app if you have an app for your customers. Here's an example from HIMSS. They have an app where you can track your progress, connect with your providers and with your doctors and so on. So it empowers you on the treatment to reach better results, and it increases stickiness of the treatment. You can have a loyalty program or some sort of a benefits program. Another example from HIMSS, they have launched recently their HIMSS benefits, where people who are on the treatment can also get affiliate deals from their partners that are like meal delivery services, mattresses, MyFitnessPal subscriptions, all these kind of things that kind of support the journey on the GLP-1s in other ways than just the treatment itself. Obviously, you can also have a community, you can host events, and email and SMS marketing, for example, are great ways to promote those to your audience. Here's an example again. Join our next Zoom call with expert dietitian, walking you through these type of things so you can like educate your patients, get them to join this call on a monthly basis and give them extra value beyond just taking the injection itself. And why is this so powerful? While GLP-1 itself is a commodity and the same thing everyone else is also selling, offering these types of extra perks beyond the treatment, beyond the molecule, to empower and give value to your customers is what makes your brand and treatment plan sticky and retention high. And why is that? Because this builds something into the program that no other competitor can easily replicate. So if you only have the treatment, somebody can just find a cheaper provider and switch to that overnight. But if you offer all these kind of things, you have an app, you have with all of their data, you have benefits that they're using, you have monthly calls, you have a community where people can discuss with each other, they're going to lose all of that if they switch to a cheaper provider. So they probably wouldn't do that. And that's the power of retention marketing, when you combine these type of elements that are higher level elements together with communication channels like email and SMS and app notifications and so on. Now, way number 4, don't design another HIMSS clone. And this is simple. Why? Because you won't stand stand out if you look like the biggest brand and all of its copycats that are on the market right now. So instead, you want to create your own style, which should be tailored to your target audience, like these brands have done, for example. I have 2 examples here. One, which is Harley Meds, their hormone therapy. They use darker colors, heavier font than a planter copy. You can see here, really different, really unique. And then obviously Blue Chew, niche is, men's sexual health, which uses more aggressive colors, copy and bold font. And they obviously market on a lot of these comedy podcasts and everything else as well. So they're finding their own niche, they're using their own communication style, their own brand, and they have a really strong brand which pushes them to grow fast. Now, make sure this stays congruent across the whole funnel, because then you become instantly recognizable. For example, how Keeps has been doing this. They have an ad, they have a quiz, they have an email, and all of these are congruent with each other. Same style, same branding, same type of communication and messaging, and this builds the congruency, and this makes people convert, because if they're confused, they won't convert, but if they're not confused, you remove all the friction and you get people to convert. Now, way number 5, the fifth strategy, and this can change your business forever. No one can copy your social proof, at least not in an authentic way. And a key way to build trust is true reviews and true testimonials. Now, most telehealth brands don't get a lot of reviews because they don't have a review ecosystem. And what is a review ecosystem? It's when you acquire more patients, the patients get to your treatment plan, they succeed, you ask them reviews, you collect reviews and testimonials from them, and then you turn these into remarketing material for other customers that are coming in, other leads, your existing patients to expand them for other treatments, etc. Now, let's break down first how to get more reviews. So this stage here, how to ask and when. Most brands make the mistakes here, which lead them to getting almost no reviews. So one mistake is asking right after the order, or asking based on a timer only, or asking without an incentive, if within regulation, obviously, because usually if you can ask an incentive, it's a better way to get more people to review as well. Now, what you want to do instead is to ask based on some sort of a success metric, and if possible with an incentive. And the best way to do that is through the review email or SMS, for example. And here's one example from Effecti, where we did this for them in a little bit more unique way. The trigger of this is when a patient reaches a success milestone. So basically, if they have been on the treatment for long enough and they're satisfied, they're not marked as unhappy or unsatisfied, they're gonna get this review. And here, first of all, the headline, I would say it's a great analogy as to why review is valuable. Someone is Googling, is Effecti worth? Or let's say there's going to be people Googling or finding on Reddit, is Effecti worth it? And that's when Trustpilot reviews obviously matter for your brand. You know the answer. So this email, how it works, it gives a clear incentive and explains how it works. So tap below and leave an honest review on Trustpilot. Reply to this email with a screenshot of your reviewer, your review and your reviewer name, and then you get $25 off your next order applied within 48 hours. And then the CTA to the Trustpilot. So super simple for them. Now, this becomes advertising and marketing material, which then gets more patients acquired. So for example, landing page conversion rate increases if you have more reviews and higher rate reviews. So you can show here 4.5 stars out of 630 reviews. And then you can obviously collect testimonials in images and videos as well, before, afters, and this kind of testimonials to utilize on your advertising funnel. For meta ads, you have a lot of examples from Effecti here, how they have utilized these from their affiliates and customers and influencers as well. And then this fulfills the whole loop where you acquire more patients because you're utilizing the reviews that you're already collected from these people who were already patients, gave a review, and then you turn that into marketing material. So now that's it for this video. Obviously, you know now how to stand out in the telehealth market if you've been paying attention in this video, but you still need to know the fundamentals of a good telehealth marketing strategy to win. And to do that, click the video on the screen right now, or here if you're in this Miro board or in this Figma board, to see the best telehealth marketing strategy in 2026. And I hope to see you there.